Hello, Jonathan. So, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. Really appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me, Reid.
Here on the Jump Cut Real Talk show, I really think it's important to share empowering stories that can uplift other people. So, when I heard about your story from Fred Beam, I was really impressed by the journey that you took. And especially now, in the Los Angeles film and television industry. It's going through a lot of growing pains. There's not a lot of work. There were strikes recently. So a lot of people are having difficulty right now navigating this kind of change in the industry. And, I thought your story was really uplifting and empowering because you went through kind of a different kind of career change. Right now, you're currently working in virtual reality. I wanted to hear more about that and your career path. Your company is called Virtual Reality Experience, and I would love to know, what your role is in that company and what do you do as a company?
I started virtual reality experience or VRX about 6 years ago now. After I made that jump, maybe about a year after I left my 9 to 5 job. And we're doing workshops for kids. We're doing production. We're doing a decent amount of consulting, but I'm trying to lean things more towards production. Ultimately, I'd like to do virtual reality animations, and we've done a few of those, like gigs for other companies. But again, I'd like to create my own animations, create my own characters, and things like that. But I'd say that the thing I'm most proud of probably is going to be the education aspect of it because we're able to actually like help kids and give back. I like to make money, and of course, I love production, but I feel like that is the one where I can see another generation getting excited about this stuff. And I feel like that was something I didn't have, and probably why it took me so long to kind of circle back around to getting into the things I think I was interested in as a kid.
I did see one of a series of videos that you have on your YouTube channel, kind of talking about what VR is and how to use Premiere to do 360 videos.
Yep.
Would you say those are geared towards professionals or kids?
I'm going to say those are geared towards anybody who's trying to learn. I understand that there's higher education and there's like youth education, but at the end of the day, if you're interested in this stuff, it really doesn't matter how old you are. I feel like those videos were put out there so that you could be 15 years old and be like, oh, this is interesting. I want to get into this. And it's a step by step guide that's going to say, here's how you do this. Or you could be 50 years working at Toyota and be like, wow, I really want to learn how to edit. And in between breaks, you could watch those same videos and get the exact same thing out of it. I feel like it's for anybody who's trying to learn. I don't think there's any really high concepts, anything that's too high. I feel like we mentioned, hey, you can go find out more information on this someplace else.
I do agree with that. I was watching it. I think the videos are really short,
Yeah.
maybe 5 to 10 minutes. And there was one on Premiere, how to bring in a 360 video. And I learned, I didn't know, I didn't even know that was possible with the current Premiere.
I sure
um,
appreciate Adobe. They're doing a lot for like immersive.
what's the split that your company does in terms of like how much of your work your company does is in 360 video and how much is in like the 3D digital, worlds and environments of
Right. The
VR?
real VR, VR, AR. Ooh, that's a interesting question. No one's ever asked. Let me see. I'd say we're sitting at about maybe it is even a 50-50 split. Um, it might be starting to gear a little bit more towards 3D right now as virtual production kind of takes off and the photogrammetry and all that starts to really lift. I'm seeing a lot more people looking for things that involve 3D assets. The 360 film is definitely still going, but those are a little bit different jobs. I would say that it's going to be more like corporate work and things like that. It's not really fun work, or like exciting futuristic work. It's more like we got this thing or we did this event and we want people to see it in a new medium. And that's what most of the 360 is, but it's almost a surefire hit for most people. People go wow when they see it, and that's what companies are looking for.
Wow, that's so cool. What are maybe like one or two prime examples that your company has done that you point to that you're really proud of?
We have a documentary series called Shadows of Society, and I don't know, it's just near and dear to my heart, especially living in Los Angeles. I've seen a lot of, we'll say, groups whose voices go unheard. And the point of that documentary series is to really like find those groups and give them a voice. What are the problems that they're facing and how can you help? Another one's actually a current project I'm working on right now. I'm in a master's program with Arizona State University, and my capstone project is a VR story called Fatherhood. It's a 3D story. It's immersive, but at the same time, it's like a game as well as just a narrative. So even though you're just watching it, there are times when you get to actually play, throughout the story. So I'm really excited about that. If it's projects that aren't mine that I've worked on, there is a project up on Meta's. I think it's on Meta TV right now, and it's called In Protest. And that was just during like the George Floyd times, and we got to travel around the United States and see all these different forms of protest and ways outside of just marching that people were able to make a difference in their communities. And that one was also really great. And I do a lot of work with another company called KaiXR, and she does a lot of wonderful educational, like 360 material for students. And that all of those are like really fun for me.
That's awesome. I love it. I love that you're really into, developing materials that tell stories that aren't told and that help other people get a different perspective or to learn something new. I used to work in the video games industry,
Oh,
traditional like
nice.
2D games. It wasn't VR. But recently, my girlfriend brought over the Oculus 2. What's it called? A Dark Matter. And it's kind of like this adventure exploration kind of game, and I was like just watching her play it, and I was like, maybe I should get back into doing games. Like it was
Maybe not. Now's the time. I mean, the industry is the lines are blurring. Is it game? Is it film? It's almost becoming all the same right now. I mean, the graphics you see in the Marvel movies are pretty much making their way into the video games right now, and vice versa. So, I mean, if you know how to build games, essentially you're positioning yourself for the new Hollywood that's kind of emerging right now. Has emerged and is growing right now.
I can remember when, I want to say early 90s, I went to this kind of arcade place and they had VR back then, and it was this massive giant helmet tethered, and like maybe I had to put on a backpack. I don't quite remember. I mean, it's taken decades for this technology to get to where it is now.
For
Do you
sure.
feel like it's here to stay? Do you think there's growth potential? Like, where is it right now and where is it going?
Where is it right now? I think that it's in an interesting place because again, the film industry is kind of taking over everything, and so a lot of the, we'll call them artists who may even have been working to develop this like VR system, are now kind of finding a lot of opportunities in film. So I'm not saying they're jumping ship, but they're going where the money is, and I can't blame anybody for that. But I think the industry is strong right now. There's a lot of players in the game, and it's definitely here. One thing I do know is it's here to stay because no one wants anything more than to immerse you in their world. And I don't care who that is. You know what I mean? It could be your spouse, it could be your parents, but it definitely is these companies. You know what I mean? This is like advanced TV. And if there's any way, Coca-Cola can have you in an ad where you're in their entire Coca-Cola world and every thought you have is Coca-Cola, they're going to take it. And so it's just a matter of time of like bringing these technologies to people and really making them like easy. There's a lot of areas of friction, I'd say right now, having the big headset, and once we get maybe down to like some glasses, I know the Vision Pro is coming out and maybe Apple's solution will be what people need in order to feel comfortable just using this in everyday life. But I think its form factor is going to be a really big thing. And once we get that, everybody's going to be in VR or at
Right.
least AR. At least they're going to be using AR.
Right. I mean, we can even use AR now with our phones. It's a little
Yep.
bit limited. That's another really cool kind of side. Mm, I don't know what the word is. Like, there's VR, there's AR. They're related, but yet they're
Oh,
different.
they're pretty much the same thing. Like
Yeah.
any assets you have for virtual reality will work in augmented reality and vice versa. And to me, that's the beauty of a 3D asset is its versatility. Like you can put this anywhere. You can have it on your website. You can have it in VR. You can have it in AR. You can 3D print it into a physical object. I really do like the 3D stuff. As much as I love the real world, this 3D stuff is definitely starting to grow on me.
All right, so we've gotten some background on the VR space and the work that you've done there. So let's talk about the beginning. What were you doing prior to VR? And, what drew you to what you were doing back then?
Well, before VR, I was working at the Boy Scouts of America, the Western Los Angeles County Council. And I was working as a camp registrar. I would pretty much manage all the money that came in from their three biggest camps. Um, what drew me to that was absolutely nothing. I was an Eagle Scout. So once I moved to Los Angeles, I moved to LA. Within like the second day I moved out here, I got a job delivering pizzas because I just needed some money. I was DJing back in Minnesota where I came from. So I got a job DJing. And so it was delivering pizzas and DJing. And I wasn't going to just keep doing that. So I reached out to the Boy Scouts, said, hey, I was working here, years ago. I'm Eagle Scout. And they gave me an opportunity.
So everything was normal, you're working for the Boy Scouts in Los Angeles. Um, when did you start feeling like you might want a career change? I mean, you kind of already alluded to it, that wasn't going to be what you were going to do, but was there anything that made you want to make a change, or was there something that you kind of knew, or there was an interest that you wanted to pursue?
I'm going to say, yeah, I was chasing after music. Um, but it turned out that wasn't really my passion, if I can be honest. And that was a big reason I came out here. But I was also, I'm not going to take this too deep. I'll just say I was a little brainwashed in life. And I was under the impression that in order to be successful, I had to pursue one of these certain lanes. I was very incorrect in that. And I was limiting myself, but I didn't know that at the time, coming from a smaller place. Minnesota's it's a metropolitan area. It has a much metropolitan area, but it's not a big city. It's not a LA. It's not a New York. So I was a little bit limited in my thoughts. So I came out here for music. I just knew I wanted to do something creative. I always had like a passion for creating things, like whether that was video, and I couldn't edit at the time, so I just would watch these things and think, wow, I wish I knew how to do that. Or I'd have a bunch of ideas but didn't know how to bring them into reality. And oh, man, did I have an impulse? I also made some friends when I first moved out here immediately, and those friends were already working in film, and I had seen it kind of adjacent, but I didn't necessarily want to work in film. I had all they did was complain about it, so I was like, why would I want to go into an industry where everybody's just complaining? And things have not changed. Like people are still complaining about film, but I think things have gotten a little bit different. But at the time, all they did was whine about it. So I didn't want to move into film, but I just knew I didn't want to be where I was, and I wanted to pursue something creative.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we all have that creative drive. Like as kids growing up, hopefully we do some finger painting, drawing, playing just with toys. Like we're always creative, and I think that's just an innate human need to be creative. So I'm glad that you felt that itch and that you were able to keep it in mind as you were kind of figuring out your life path. So you're working, for the Boy Scouts. Um, and you kind of know that you don't want to be doing it forever, and you maybe got this creative itch. Did you have any hesitations, any kind of worries or reservations about making a change?
I'll say yes, but again, they were just all in my head. Like it was really just all in my head. I was afraid, one, that I'd have no money to survive. That's always a really big fear. And I guess I moved past that now that like once did my own thing, it was like, oh, the money now just depends on how hard I'm willing to work. At the time, it was very rough in Los Angeles. I was trying to figure out my life and figure out my funds, just get my footing. And yeah, that was probably just the only thing that made me hesitate was I didn't want to be out here with nothing. I truly had days where it was like, am I going to get food or am I going to get gas? And those are the choices I was making. So I was afraid to put myself in any worse of a situation. I maybe didn't even like my living situation at the time. So yeah, there were a lot of things, a lot of reasons, and they were all common sense too, I would say. maybe don't take this risk because the return may not be there. You know what I mean? This is just a crapshoot. So that was probably the biggest thing, it just all in my head.
Yeah, I think so many of us can relate to that. And like when we're thinking about it in our head, like it seems so practical and realistic, but then once we push through it, we're like, "Oh, that worst case scenario that I thought of, that really wasn't going to happen."
I'll just say this, I wasn't the person I am today. And it was a lot to do with confidence. I didn't feel confident that I could leave my job and make something totally new work because I had never done any freelance work. I had never tried to start a company. I really had never done any of that stuff. And for me to jump out of my comfort zone, I just wasn't confident at the time that I could learn all these new skills and make all this work. And
Yeah,
that was holding me back a lot.
you didn't have that experience that you could fall back on and know that you could do this. Was there anyone who encouraged you or guided you to make the change that you wanted to make? How did they influence you?
This is a long one, but I'm gonna shorten it for you. There's actually a couple of people I have to recognize on this. So the first one is super random, and it is Snoop Dogg. So I must have been. This was like the aha moment. I was at home. I was just sitting on my floor contemplating life. Like, what am I doing here? Should I stay in LA? This was April Fool's Day. I saw a video and it was Snoop Dogg and YouTube, and they were together in a laboratory. Like YouTube technicians and Snoop Dogg were pouring chemicals in vats and writing like equations on boards. And I'm like, what's going on here? And they're like, we're in the lab creating 360 videos. And I'm like, what's a 360 video? Like, I never even heard of this. Like, is this a joke? Because it's April Fool's Day. So I look a little bit deeper into it, and they had like a 360 video example. Probably took me like 10 minutes to realize I could like move the phone around and see that there was so much more. And right in that moment, I knew this is what I'm trying to do right now. Like, this is it. I can make spherical video. Like, I've never seen anything like this. And I feel like that moment changed everything for me. From there, I just got more curious. I tried to make one with one of my friends, and that went, but we tried. We kind of we started turning the gears. After I did a couple of, we'll call them effort 360 videos. I met Fred, and Fred Beam was an awesome guy. I met him at an event. I was just trying to get a little bit more into the community and meet some more people. He was like, she had brought a camera. I can't remember if he had the Z Cam or the Obsidian. It was one of those two, but I was just super intrigued. I'm like, oh, this is how they really make those videos that I was trying to make. Because I was taking like a traditional camera, shooting like 8 shots in a circle and then stitching it together in After Effects. Definitely not how you're supposed to do it. So after talking to Fred, he was like, hey, I'd love to show you how to use the camera. You could just swing by my place, man. I'll teach you how you can edit some of this stuff. And it was super exciting. I went with it. Fred taught me so much. He gave me a lot. He actually gave me my first job. Aside from Fred, I got an internship at this place called JYC. And these guys taught me how to edit. They gave me like, first off, confidence, but they gave me a lot of the skills I would need to kind of run my own operation. You know what I mean? They kind of showed me the ins and outs, and not even really trying to show it to me. They were teaching me how to edit, but just watching them, I was able to see how they were kind of handling their own business. It helped me really like switch my mindset, I'd say. And then after that, I was this is a little bit before I actually left my job. Was I wanted to again just try something and just put myself out there. So I applied to Meta's Launchpad program. I got into that program, and in that program, I met Ebony Piez and Alton Glass, and the two of them have been monumental in me moving forward with all of this. Ebony helped me get my first series funded because I ended up winning that Meta Launchpad program, and Alton has just been a champion for me. He's the reason I'm in this program at ASU, getting my master's. He's provided work. He's put me on some really diverse crews, and he just provided a lot of opportunity. So I really am appreciative of him.
That's
That's
awesome. So you've had
it.
people just kind of like show you the ropes, and that's so cool that during the internship you were able to learn about like the business, because I think that's It's really hard to learn that I'm finding. Like I've got my own business with the Jump Cut conference, and I've kind of just had to pull resources from everywhere. And
Right.
as someone, sounds like you were self-taught in the beginning, like you found the Snoop Dogg video and you started learning on your own, and it's hard to learn a lot of different resources like that when you're trying to do it by yourself. So meeting other people and having them show you the ropes,
For sure.
that's really cool. So one really fun story about Snoop Dogg that I have is I was working as an assistant editor for a TV show for one of Snoop Dogg's TV shows, and it was So Dumb It's Criminal with Snoop Dogg for
Okay.
NBC Peacock. And so in the building where we do post production, on the lower floor they had the actual stage where Snoop Dogg would sit and film the episodes. So one day I go downstairs from where I was working, and I go to walk outside to have my lunch, and it's this long hallway. And so I'm heading towards out to go outside. And from the outside coming in is Snoop Dogg down this narrow hallway.
Nice.
And he and I pass right by each other. And I'm not kidding. The hallway was probably like maybe 4 or 5 feet wide. It's really tight. So he and I walk by, and I smelled some weed. So today I can say that Snoop Dogg shared some weed with me. And he's such a cool guy. Like he's super smart. He's so into business. Like he's a really smart business person.
I hope I can also share a story like that someday because I feel like I owe him a lot. And I need, I mean, I actually saw him recently at Unreal Fest, but I didn't really get like a chance to interact with him. So I hope one day I can have a story like that too.
I mean, the fact that he inspired you, I think if you ever get the chance to tell him that, he would really appreciate that.
Oh no, for sure. I major thanks.
So you're doing a lot of exploration and growth and internships. Was there a moment where you finally decided, like, this is it, like this is the industry that I want to be in and the career change that I want to make?
I'll say going to that Meta launch pad was a really big deal for me because I don't think I had even seen so many people who were interested in like this 360 VR world. Who are from diverse backgrounds too. Like that was a big piece of it was, I hadn't seen that many people who look like me doing the things I wanted to do. And all that was gone right then. So I really didn't have too many excuses. And I think I was even just editing with Fred one day or something like that. And he just straight up says, man, like, it was my birthday coming up. He was like, yeah, man, if you just leave on your birthday and you just go out there and take the jump, like, I know you're passionate enough to do it. I'll cover your first month's rent if you don't make the money. And I'm thinking, bro, but what about the second and third and fourth? Bro, you could cover 1 month. That was enough. I went home. I started typing that resignation letter. I started feeling empowered while I typed it. And that day, I went in on my birthday and I just gave him the letter. And you know, actually, it was a really heartwarming moment when I brought that to my boss at the time, and he looks at me and he pushes it away and says, "No, I won't accept that."
Wow. Wow.
Oh, because I mean, we had a good thing going. I will be honest. Like we was the counts were moving smooth. Um, so I felt bad about walking away. Another partnership did spark between them, and I ended up providing VR for the Boy Scouts later during the pandemic. Uh, but that was pretty much the moment when Fred said that, like, hey, I'll cover it for you. If you just take this leap of faith, I got you. And that was, all I needed was a net there. I never even landed in the net. I actually ended up making rent that month, and pretty much I've never even had to ever call. And everything's been good, but it was just getting over that hump and then really believing in yourself and just taking the dive and know that the resources are out there. Back then I couldn't have told you this, but now I know the resources are out there to learn new things, and the money is definitely out there. Like the money is everywhere. That shouldn't be the reason you don't do something. It's everywhere.
Yeah, that's something I've had to relearn, is that this mind have the mindset that the world is abundant in whatever it is that you need,
Yes.
and to
Yes.
just let go of this scarcity mindset.
It sounds easy. Like it's easy to say these words, but it's hard to believe the words.
Yeah, it really is, it really is, and it takes doing that leap of faith and going through the process and getting the experience to then know for sure and, like, then believe it. So, yeah, it's super difficult, super difficult. So much easier said than done.
Yeah, for sure. As all things are.
So, what kind of challenges or difficulties did you face? Were there any kind of tools that you had to use to help you through?
Let's see. Challenges will be easily that Meta Launchpad program, getting my prototype out, that it did end up winning, but getting to that point was so difficult because I really had no idea about game development. That was my first time in Unity. Um, it was hard. It was really hard to learn so many skills in like a very short amount of time. I appreciate my whole cohort though; they were all there to support, and the funny thing is, even if it meant they could lose, they still were there helping me out, staying up till 1 o'clock in the morning trying to help me get my prototype done. So I will always be very grateful to all of them. I still keep in contact with them to this day. Another thing was again just that mindset shift. I feel we talked about that a decent amount, but that really is like that is the one thing that dictates where you are in life almost is where you think you can be. And it took a long time for me to really believe that I could actually do this stuff. And you know what? I'll say one more, and this is one that I had to like learn. It was I didn't know the business of it all. So when I left the launch, it was like I quit my job and I immediately won that Meta Launchpad. So I got my first project funded, and that's not how things go. You struggle for a long time, and then you maybe get a project funded. But I got my project funded right out of the gate. Once we did our 3 episodes, and that was all done and turned in and completed and up on the store, then it's like my real business journey began because I didn't have any funds coming in for a project. I had like absolutely nothing and I was starting from that zero. And most people start from zero and work up, and I had already worked up and then dropped to zero. And so figuring out how to maneuver that and find clients and really start to get work moving, that was hard. That truly was hard. And that's when I was questioning my decision again. Like, whoa, I really just jumped out on the deep end. Like, I didn't even realize this is what people are always dealing with. Once I got through that, then it's been decently smooth sailing. Maybe the pandemic was a little bump in there, but the pandemic also turned into a great opportunity. So
What helped you through that part where, you finished your first project and then you needed to, you know, I guess do sales and, like, reach out to other people? Did you have anyone personally coach you, or were you, like, watching YouTube videos on, like, how to
yep,
do sales?
I did the one thing I know how to do, and that's just make stuff. If I'm being honest, reached out to companies. I was like, maybe I just need to build a resume. I was saying, hey, I'm trying to create this many 360 videos this year. People were very gung ho to let me come in. Some people were like, we're not paying you. Some people were like, maybe we'll have something for you. But it was irregardless because I had set the goal for how many I wanted to make. And so I just went out there and kept trying to create content. Thanks to that project, I wasn't starving or anything. I had money for rent, I had money for food. And it was, how am I going to keep this flowing? And a big thing of it was just going out there and doing it. And I would meet people. Oh, what's that? What kind of camera is that? All those little interactions and things. It kind of just started to spur it and build community and give me momentum. But it was just going out there and doing it. And I was hitting some meetups, any film events I found online, film or video game or anything, because VR wasn't like quite a lane yet. I was going to anything I could to find people who maybe were doing things similar. And, eventually I just kept meeting people and it turned into what it is today. But I can never say enough. Get out there and just do it. Like that is the truth of the matter. Even if there's not a dollar coming in, you just have to do it because how can people trust you to do something if you're not even doing it? If you want to do it for yourself, why would I have you do it for me?
Well said. That is perfectly said. Yeah, I completely agree. And then, even if you're not making money, you're building your portfolio, you're building experience, which will be valuable. But was there a point where anything was uncertain or scary, and did you feel like turning back and saying, I can't do this anymore, this isn't working out?
There was no turning back. Once I quit, I was there was no turning back. Scary was everything. That the truth is I kind of learned to live in the fear, which is maybe like something you shouldn't do in life, but I got comfortable with the stakes somewhere where I honestly didn't even know where the stakes were, but I knew I had to perform no matter what the stakes were. You kind of start to get comfortable in there because even to this day, I feel like I get thrown into a situation and I can feel it out and just start to maneuver, even just as I go. But it was, yeah, it was all scary. It was all scary. From the moment I turned that in and I knew I had my last day coming, that was frightening, knowing that the checks were going to stop, knowing that for a while I might not even have health insurance. That was scary. Um, Going out to film my first project with actual stakes now. I wasn't just going out with a camera having fun. Now it was like, this is going to land on Meta Store, so don't F it up. Like there was a lot happening now. Um, and again, also, like I said, when I finished that first project and it was time to start figuring out how I was going to get more business, that was very frightening. I mean, since then I've run into a bunch of things that I thought were scary. When I had to do my first workshop at like Snapchat or something, that's scary because the stakes are kind of high. You got 50 kids out there who know nothing, and when they leave, they need to have something, and you got to teach them how to do it. Stakes are high. Or they just flew you out to Zambia to do a project, and you got this many days to collect some really good footage and bring it back, and you're not going to get another chance to go out there. So what you actually capture is what you got. And a lot of stuff like that, you just learn to live in it. I don't know, live in the fear and embrace it, know that it's momentary, and it passes. It passes. And if you just push through it, usually you will be very happy on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And for someone like yourself, like someone who's able to push through that fear, they can be very dangerous because fear holds so many people
Oh
back.
yeah, I
And
know.
being able to push through it, that's empowering. That's awesome.
Across the board though, I feel like people don't want to face the fears and like even moving. Oh man, I hate this place I'm living in, but they're too afraid to just get a new place. There's so many, fear is always popping up, and I feel like it was an invaluable skill to just learn how to face it. And there's still some things I'm maybe afraid of that are holding me back, but it's not a conscious fear the same way those other ones were super obvious. And I was like, okay, I can overcome this.
You made the career change. Things are going great. Um, what have been the rewards and benefits for you in making that
Oh,
career change? And would you say that this better aligns with your values and interests?
I definitely will start off with that alignment one. I'm so blessed, man. As a kid, I like to draw characters, write little stories, and play with toys. And I feel like I literally do that for work now. Except the toys are now 3D models, but it's all pretty much the same thing. I get to just be creative. I get to work with people I want to work with, and it's been very fun. Life has been fun. I mean, there's new worries, of course. There'll always be worries, but at least I can say when it comes to like the the hours I have to spend working, they're not daunting. I'm not sitting there thinking, what am I here for? It's like, oh, I know why I'm here. Um, the benefits of this, I've been able to travel literally all over the world thanks to this. And I'm talking like free trips to Zambia, to Cuba, to Europe, like all over Europe. Like it's been fantastic. I've met celebrities, models, musicians, like everything. I have a certain freedom with my time. I love my family, and there was a really long period of time when I just couldn't even afford to go see them. Like I literally couldn't get a plane ticket to go back to Minnesota to see my family, and I'm doing that like 4 times a year now. Like I see my family as much as I want, and that's been beautiful. My dad getting up there in age, but I'm not going to be that kid who looks back like I wish I had spent more time with none of that. So that has been fantastic. And I got the opportunity to really like give back to people. I feel like I'm I'm shaping the world a little bit to where the things I faced as a kid, such as not seeing people who look like me doing these things, I'm able to at least provide that for another generation. Like, hey, if I can do it, you can easily do it. And here's literally all the resources, and I'm a resource, so you really don't have an excuse. And to me, that's been probably the best part.
That's amazing, man. Man, I can really feel your passion. That's super heartwarming to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of stuff, man. I truly love this stuff.
How do you feel that this career change has shaped you as a person? Has there been any inner strengths that it's cultivated or brought out that you didn't know that you had before?
Maybe I always knew I had certain traits, but I wasn't confident enough to let them shine. And I feel like this has really given me a chance even to show pretty much all my skills. I find myself in situations where it's like, oh, y'all need a demo? You just need me to voice act for a second? Sure. I could throw something together here. I get to, oh, you need me to just do a Photoshop thing real quick? Sure. I can actually do photo editing too. I really get to find ways to use all my skills. And I'm going to say the confidence thing again. It has made me believe in myself. I know if another human has done it, I can do it. You know what I mean? Maybe I can't run as fast as Usain Bolt or something tomorrow, but I could train and probably get pretty damn close. If another human has done it, I know that it is possible. Even if you got to get a team together, get some mentors, you can get there. You can get there. It just takes effort.
Absolutely. Effort, consistency, a will
Consistency is a
to
big one
want
too.
it. Yeah. So looking back, like what wisdom would you pass on to someone um who wants to make any kind of career change?
First off, I'm going to say go do that thing. It's real easy to say you want to do something, but then when you get there, you realize what it really is. And it's like, oh, maybe I didn't want to do this. And that was actually me with music. I went out, I really did do it. We were at clubs, I was really DJing on stage, all that stuff, and that was actually a big piece of me getting through fear too, because I was I remember I like DJ for like Ray Srimmer one time. They're a popular group at the time. They're like, and that was very nerve wracking, and I kind of messed it up a little bit, but I pushed through. But I would say it really is about just trying out the things. Anybody can say they want to do something. Very few people try and actually go get their feet wet, and then you'll know for sure if you like it and if it's worth you taking this risk or making any sacrifices. Another one I'll say is like the resources are there to learn. So you really never have an excuse there. Like YouTube University is the best school that exists on this planet, and I will always stand by that. Like there's pretty much nothing you can't learn on YouTube, or at least start getting a direction towards where you can find more resources or something. But like you can sure watch those cat videos, and you can watch people like falling off of skateboards. Like it's there and it's funny. But if you actually focus on YouTube and you go in there with a goal, YouTube can be a excellent learning material, and like have confidence in yourself and just do it. Really, to just have confidence and go and try. That's probably the number one.
I've been learning a lot about AI and artificial intelligence, and there's so much content out there. Like some of it is just here's the latest really cool tool that I found, but then others are like really more in depth about here's how a large language model works, here's how deep learning works, machine learning, and so on. So, I've had to really like get more focused in terms of like, I want to learn the fundamentals, the foundations of this technology. And it is there on YouTube. So, yeah, it's like you have to know what you want and to learn the fundamentals. And then, that can really help you grow and develop your skills for whatever path you want to take.
For sure. Yeah, I was gonna leave the AI out of this, but since you brought it up, man, that is a powerful tool across the board. I don't know what people are doing in their lives to be afraid of this. Like, embrace. I mean, I guess I do know, but embrace it. I think that everybody needs to embrace that AI. I'm using that all the time. If you get a gem in an email, Chat GPT, you need to do a quick dev. I mean, literally, Luma has like text to 3D object. So you can create anything for the most part. It may not be, a AAA model, but you could get an example and send that out. I mean, you've seen all of the speech to text is just fantastic. Um, the mid journey stuff, all of it. Like, there's so many tools now. Don't even get me started.
The most recent Midjourney version 6 that they came out, people started making photos of like they look like their iPhone photographs of like people at a party. It is insane how real that looks.
And I know that there's some implications to this that are not on the positive side, but I think it's most important that it's not going anywhere, first off. So it's best that people just learn what's going on. and then we can get into ethics and all these other things. But maybe everybody just needs to get up to speed so they know if they're actually afraid or if they should be using the tool or just what it is. But I think if everybody learns about it, we'll be in a better place with AI.
Yeah, I agree 100%. People really need to learn more about it because you're right, it's not going anywhere. So, is there anything else that you would like to share and talk about in regards to virtual reality or your company?
Um, Fatherhood's coming out soon, so make sure that you check that out. But I mean, no, www.vrxconnect.com and VRX Connect on all social media platforms. Yeah, I don't know, man. Get your feet wet. Just go do it. Like for me, that has been the one thing that has whenever things are looking scary or feeling bleak, or I'm like, damn, can I do this? I know one thing will usually work, and that's just getting up and getting to it. And maybe that's just going on watching a movie that I liked or a VR film or something, being like, wow, I was inspired by that. Let me reach out to some of the people I just saw in the credits. You know what I mean? It's little things like there's so many different ways that you can just get out there and get to it. There's also so many people, if I wanted to get into fashion, I don't need to find the top fashion designer, I can find the person who just does their stitching and they're going to get me into that sphere. So that if there's anything you're interested in, you just need to find a couple of people, start to build that community, and you'll just find yourself there.
Yeah, 100%. Completely agree. Yeah, I love that. When will Fatherhood come out and where can people experience that?
If everything goes according to plan, it's going to be hitting the film festival circuit. So you'll need to be at Tribeca or Sundance, and eventually you'll be able to just go to the website and see it, or you can go to like Meta's store, whatever it's called, Meta Shop, Meta Store, whatever.
Okay,
But
awesome.
yeah, I mean, there's plenty of stuff out there now. Feel free to just go watch Shadow Society if you just need some filler until then. But this is the one I'm most proud of right now.
And then, how can people get in contact with you to learn more or to hire you for a project?
Yep. Also, again, vrxconnect.com. My email, jwilliams@vrxconnect.com.
All right, man. This has been so fun to talk with you. I learned a lot, really empowering. I'm inspired myself, like just what you talked about reaching out to people, making connections. I need to do that. So thank you again. Really appreciate your time. This has been amazing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, man.
I hope you enjoyed that interview with Jonathan Williams. Before we go, I wanted to leave you with three key takeaway messages that I learned from him. If you're stuck and feeling uncertain about which direction to go next in your career, you've got to try things. Set them up as small, quick experiments that you can try so that you're not taking on too much risk and that you can learn really quickly what's going to work for you or not. Number two is to meet people and make friends with them by getting to know them on a personal level and learning what they have learned. And then you also want to be strategic in who you're reaching out to. Because if you reach out to someone with 20 years experience, they may have forgotten what it's like to get started from scratch, and they may not really know how the industry has changed over the years and give you actionable advice that you really need. A better person to reach out to is someone who has 2 or 3 years experience more than where you are currently. So they'll be able to relate to where you are now and tell you and recall from their own history what they did to get to where you want to be. Number three, you have to fight against your fears. Usually, the worst case scenario is not going to happen, and if it does, it will be momentary. You've got to be confident in your ability to solve problems. Sure, you may not know things, but you will figure it out. And related to that, you have to be able to embrace uncertainty. Learn to embrace uncertainty, push through, keep learning, keep growing, and eventually, what you don't know will be known through your experience. And that does it for today's Jump Cut Real Talk show. Be sure to subscribe to get notified when future episodes are available.